All right. Hi, welcome to another episode of First Connect. This is your midweek webcast here at First Baptist Church with Lance and Dave. It's a bridge from one Sunday to the next with church happenings, connecting people, thoughts, ideas. We got great ideas today.
We're heavy on ideas today, actually.
Yeah, for sure. So welcome. Glad you're here with another episode for us. The second episode of Season 3, the first season of 2021. Pretty cool, huh?
That's a pretty cool thing, man.
That really is. I like saying it.
Lance, what have you guys been up to?
So home front for the Brewers. We've had some, really over the past few days, we've had some extra time just to watch some new TV shows that we thought we'd check out. So on Disney Plus, so if you bought into that, which we did, we watched a couple episodes of WandaVision, all right? So those are a couple of characters off of the Marvel's
Cinematic Universe.
Avengers series. And so it was really good, but it left us kind of going, what? Where are they headed? So it's kind of like a sitcom / adventure thing with... it was interesting.
I saw some commercial or trailer for that the other day, and that was my general impression too. Is like, what did I just watch? So apparently the show's like that too. Yeah. But you guys enjoyed it.
Well, we really did enjoy it. We all maybe it's because we really liked the whole Avengers series and those things as well. It's been pretty good, but we enjoyed it, and we got to do that as a family together and kind of laugh about it together. So that was fun.
Cool
What about you?
Two things. We're finishing out Anna's second basketball season. She's in third grade. This is her first year of the competitive league over at AAO, which is really cool. So there are Fayetteville teams, Rogers teams, Springdale, Bentonville, Van Buren, Alma, all different ones around, some Shiloh teams. And so it's the first team Anna's had to try out for it and make, and she's had a good time with that. We've got our last game this week, and then... Well, the league did. They snuck the tournament into this weekend. It wasn't on the original schedule.
Okay, so
we're gonna miss it because
I know, you're doing something,
we are taking off to Colorado and going skiing. We did not cancel the ski trip to hang around for Anna's basketball.
Good for you.
Because
way.
It's been a lot of fun. Yeah. Erica and I are learning about not being those parents because we're both like.
Oh, those sideline parents from the stands?
Just yeah. It's a struggle sometimes, but that's okay because sanctification is a progressive act of the Lord.
Yes, it is.
And we're going to need that over the course of our kids' sports careers.
I remember thinking sometimes the ride home from the game was more challenging than in the game of how I talked to my kiddos about it.
Absolutely. So we're finishing that stuff up.
Gotcha. Man. Okay. And the ski trip, how fun! You're gonna get to go hit the slopes.
Oh, it'll be a blast.
It'll be a great time.
It'll be a blast. So, hey, we're filming here in the chapel and talking about some FBC events here in the chapel this week. You guys were in here last Wednesday. I was in here with the group last night as well. What were you guys doing?
So Wednesday, we kicked off into the new year with Wednesday night programming. So the midweek prayer service happens in this room. And it's always a sweet gathering of praying together as a church family. So I'd love to invite you to be a part of that. If you can't come here in person, then just join us at 6 o'clock on Wednesday nights in prayer for your church, people in your church, for your community, for our nation as well. We really spend some time praying together, hearing one another praying, lifting up God's people, seeking God's face as well. So it's been good. What's new with kind of youth ministry stuff?
Yeah, man, we did our student leadership meeting in here last night.
That's right.
Running with a little different Sunday night schedule here, church-wide this year. So for us, what that means is we'll be meeting right now with juniors and seniors, doing some leadership training, and spending. We didn't get to spend as much time in it this last week as I'm hoping to last night, but in weeks to come, I'm hoping we'll be spending quite a bit of time praying as well. We will be just gathering together, kind of doing some small groupy kind of things, talking through ministry issues, getting students' input on ministry plans and that kind of stuff. It's a great group, and I'm actually really glad we've got this time for this meeting. So it's gonna be.
I like that official ministry program term you just use. Small groupy things.
Small groupy.
That's good.
Small. Thanks. I get it. Thanks so much.
I mentioned earlier. Sometimes we talk about thoughts and ideas.
We do sometimes talk about thoughts.
So we're gonna do with
and ideas.
Kind of hit a "What You Thinking" segment with Lance and Dave. here. Are you getting the first pitch, or am I?
No, this is me.
Okay,
This is me.
Well, I'm gonna throw the ball at you then.
This has been these couple of verses that have just been kind of rolling around my mind over the last couple of weeks. I shared these with our students in Sunday school as well, just before we were getting started. Put this up on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. It's James 1:19 and 20, and it just says, "This you know, my beloved brothers, but everyone must be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger." This is huge. For the anger of man does not achieve the righteousness of God. We live in a day of outrage. We live in a day of complaint. Like that very much is the essence of what social media is, at least in what people use it for.
Yeah.
Got on Facebook back in college, like 2005, forever ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much that then, because you used to just update your status. Like, David is studying, or David is at the hyper playing basketball, or David just ate. Like, that's what you did.
The more simpler days of social media.
It was simpler then. Twitter came in, may have played a role in kind of changing the game, and
give your deepest, best, most well-thought thoughts in 185 characters.
Because 140, I think.
40,
because the world needs to hear what you have to say, apparently.
For sure. Yeah.
At some point, I almost wonder if contemporary Christians, those of us living in this moment, subconsciously added anger and or outrage to the list of the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, outrage, and righteous anger. You know, we're clear to talk about like righteous anger. And there is a place for that. I mean, Jesus did flip over the tables, but we're not him, first of all.
For sure.
Our motives aren't often as pure. I think far too often we can be so quick. This just talks about being slow and being quick. We can be so quick to excuse our own anger. Yeah. When I think that James 1:20, I caution my students about like just proof texting something. Just don't just take this little piece. Make sure you know what it means.
Yeah.
I think this is a pretty safe verse to bank on.
Yeah.
James 1:20, the anger of man does not achieve the righteousness of God. If we were to have any singular, overarching quality describe us as Christians, describe us as the people of God, I think there are a few you could supply that, and we're people of hope. Mm-hmm. We're people of joy. We're people of faith. Man, I just want to say, let it never be said of us that we are people of anger, as though that's the way that we live and that we operate. So just a little thought for that. That's just what I'm feeling. It's really what I'm feeling. James 1:19 and 20. Any thoughts on that, or where do you want to take it?
To that, I mean, I can't think of a time when my own anger has lifted someone else up.
Well,
I mean, so most of the time when I've gotten angry, it's usually in the presence of my family.
Right.
And I can't think of a time where it left them edified.
Fix things,
encourage things. Most of the time, it resulted in me.
I feel that.
Really either cowering to my corner because I should have, or coming back with an apology about that. What I was angry about, maybe I was justified in that. Maybe there needed to be some correcting of some things that were there, but the anger needs to be left to the Lord. For sure. That's my thoughts on that as well.
It's Paul's thoughts too, I believe, in Romans chapter 12.
Yes.
Yeah. So leave room for the wrath of God.
Yes.
He's got it.
Yeah, he's got it covered.
He's got it.
And he can do it perfectly and righteously.
What you got?
Sure. So my thoughts is leading into, we've shared about the interview that we are going to be a part of this as well. So leading into that, I have some thoughts out of Matthew chapter 25. the least of these scriptures, they're not the least of the Bible, but where we actually see Christ talk about what you've done unto the least of these.
Yeah.
And he even says, you've done unto me. And so I just want to read a couple of those verses there. This is that section of Scripture where he's talking about separating the sheep from the goats. So another part of Christ's teaching where he talks about really two distinct people in relationship to him. Those that follow after him and those that don't as well. And so he mentions those that, for when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. So there's in verse 35, I was a stranger and you took me in. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you took care of me. Yeah. I was in prison and you visited me. And in verse 40, and when the king answered them, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.
Yeah.
You did unto me. And so, well, that can stand alone right there by itself.
Absolutely.
And we can get into all the kind of nuances. Talking about those amongst the body of Christ.
Right, so Christians or the world.
Christians or the world.
Sure.
But we know that we get in other places in the Scriptures to do right to the world, to bring grace and mercy and justice in the world. I think about there in Luke, the Sunday school lesson that we had yesterday in Luke, at the end of Luke,
chapter 6.
Jesus, he spoke of not of loving your enemies, there in that chapter, of not judging one another. So gave some things you should be doing.
Yeah.
And so if we're not careful, we just read those verses, we can think about our behavior. If we just modify our behavior, then we're right.
Right.
But really Jesus tied that to knowing him and living in him as well. And so there at the very end of chapter 6, Jesus says, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and don't do the things I say? Verse 47, I will show you what someone is like who comes to me, hears my words, and acts on them. He is like a man building a house who has dug it deep and laid a strong foundation for it. And the floods came, the rivers rose, and it stood strong. It did not shake. Christ connected life in the kingdom of God with relationship to him, not relationship to doing. Not making sure you, according to the Pharisees, did exactly what you're supposed to do on the Sabbath and no more, or don't do anything on the Sabbath. Make sure you don't do the wrong things. Jesus said, no, I will heal on the Sabbath because this is about a relationship with him. And so we see that with Christ. And so we are to be doers of the word. You referenced James. We should be doers of the word and not just hearers of it only. But that is in relationship with Jesus Christ and living in him. As well. Any thoughts on
when specifically where you were back in Matthew 25, that ministry to the least of these, that's crucial. I think that's a pretty healthy lens for us to carry as we go through life in the world, where we read different translations. So mine will say, to the extent that you did it to one of these, to one of these brothers of mine, to even to the least of them. Yeah. You're doing it unto me. Yeah. Which tells me, because he confronts two groups, those who did and those who did not. Mm-hmm. Am I seeing these people? Am I looking for the hungry and the thirsty and strangers and those who need clothes and the sick and the prisoners? Yeah. He's serious about that, and that which takes us directly into our conversation we had. Yeah. Right before you and I entered into the COVID experience, actually, our families did. We sat down to talk with Debi Walker, right? Debi
Walker with Arkansas Baptist Children's Home. She is a director of the family care homes. You're going to get a lot more about that here in this interview. Yeah. But I would really, if I can call you up, church family, to respond to this interview in the sense of gaining some knowledge about a place that you can follow after Christ by doing
Tangibly,
these very things,
yeah.
tangibly doing some of these things.
Yeah.
In particular, women that are listening, there's some probably real tangible ways that you can connect with doing unto those that have great need, that are amongst us as well. So
she's got a great story,
yeah,
and she's got a great heart. I really hope you guys will catch this interview and stick with it. It's good.
Enjoy it. So Debi, welcome to this interview. Thank you so much for taking a little time with us today. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your role, what you do with Desired Haven Family Care, what that means. That's a phrase that really was new to me in some of our emails that I saw the title there, and how that connects or relates to Arkansas Baptist Children's Home and Family Ministries. Debi.
Several years ago, 10 years ago, actually, I started with Arkansas Baptist Children's Homes working as a relief house parent at one of our emergency shelters in Paragould. And at that emergency shelter, we would take in children that were in emergency situations. Maybe DCFS needed a placement until they could find a more permanent home. And so at that shelter, I was a relief house parent and just really got attached to the kids and just loved what I did. But I can remember a time when normally I did not come in contact with the families, but I remember a specific time when actually had to hand a child over to their mother for a visit. And I remember locking eyes with that mom and it just being so heart-changing for me. Like at that point, I realized God did not, that these parents did not intend to lose their children. They didn't dream of someday becoming addicted to drugs or whatever that led them to be in the position they were in. And the Lord just began to stir my heart for these moms. Little did I know at the same time, Arkansas Baptist Children's Homes they were also thinking of how can we keep these families together? How can we work with families and helping them make a safe and healthy environment for their children? So that was back in 2010. I worked with when I first came to the home there, and after a few years there, and the Lord began to work on my heart. And like I said, He was also working in Arkansas Baptist Children's Homes. In 2014, Arkansas Baptist Children's Homes opened their first family care home there in Jonesboro. And our family care home is a home that we house up to 6 families. They have individual suites that they live in, but we also have group living as far as the kitchen area, the living area. But there's also an apartment for a resident manager to live there full time. So I had the privilege of being able to live in a home with these families and just work with them on things like parenting, meal planning, time management, just helping them get their feet on a solid foundation, and ultimately to build their foundation upon Christ. And so it's just a huge privilege to be able to have that kind of relationship with them. Then move forward to now, and I've been blessed to be able to be the director of, we now have 3 homes. We have a home there in Springdale and a home here in Little Rock, and of course our home in Jonesboro. And I have the privilege of being able to be the director and bring all of those homes under one director and one program.
Arkansas Children's Homes, so you started working with them in 2010, is that what you said?
Yes, in 2010.
What exactly got you in with them in the first place? How did that start?
Well, I am originally from Brinkley, Arkansas,
Right.
And our church was just always very involved with Arkansas Baptist Children's Homes. At 28, so I was a young married woman
Just
there at First Baptist Brinkley, just a kid, and raising our family there. And at 28, I was widowed and left with 2 young girls, and our church family just came around me, and our community just came around our family and loved on us and walked alongside us. And I knew at some point when my girls got older that I wanted to go into some type of ministry. So in 2010, my oldest was getting married, and my youngest had just graduated high school and went on a mission trip for a gap year before she started college. And so empty nest and enter Arkansas Baptist Children's Home. So I got to still take care of kids. I got to still love on kids. And little did I know that even back then, as a young widow, the Lord was preparing me for family care even then, and now for our new advocate program. So it's just been neat to see how all of those have kind of intertwined. We don't understand what, when things like that happen, you don't really understand how God's working, or sometimes, because you're right in the middle of it, you don't see the work behind the scenes. But now, 21 years later.
Let's dig a little further into the family home here in Northwest Arkansas.
So in 2014 is when our first home in Jonesboro opened. And so the third home was the home there in Springdale. And that home had built and opened there in 2017. And it's run and staffed by Arkansas Baptist Children's Homes. And it wasn't until this year that we restructured, and we have one person that's over all counseling in the state of Arkansas, one person that's over all the foster care in Arkansas, and now one person that's over all of the family care.
How many families can be housed in this home in particular there, and kind of what the setup of those are? Describe that a little bit, how that home functions for these families.
So that home there in Springdale is actually built off of our home in Jonesboro. So it has 6 2-room suites there in the home where just up to 6 families can live. There is, so the suites consist of 2 bedrooms and a bath, and the families, that is their space. That's where they can live. They don't have other families living in there with them. That is their private suite. The kitchen has 3 cook stations. So a mom will share a cook station with another family, but they each get their own refrigerator, their own pantry, and then they would share the common living area, such as the living room. They also share a laundry room, that type of thing. And then we also have, just the same as in Jonesboro, we have a apartment that the resident manager lives in that is actually 2-bedroom living room and kitchen as well.
What do you like about the work? What makes it worth doing? What kind of satisfaction do you get out of what you do?
I have to sometimes ask myself, am I really doing this? Like that's how exciting my job is. It's such a privilege to be able to work with families. And 7 years ago is when I actually, I talked about the woman that I locked eyes with, and I realized nobody sets out for this to be their story. I wanted to do something then. I wanted to mentor, and I remember going to DCFS in our county and talking to them about it. And I remember them saying, well, how many families would you like? And I said, 1, because I was only one person. And little did I know that the Lord had plans for family care. I didn't even know that was on the radar at the time. And the things that he taught me through living with those families day in and day out, I realized if I had done it 7 years ago, I wouldn't have had a message. I wouldn't have had anything to give them other than just my time. And that was even limited because I was one person. And through these past 7 years, he has given us Desired Haven, and he's given us a message. He's given us a training and a way to be able to do this for multiple families, not just one. And that's what I'm so excited about. Even for your church, we have our advocate recruiter for that area is from your church. She's been amazing. She's already went through the training to be an advocate, but she's also recruiting people from your church. I just got a recommendation letter today from Lance.
Can you name this person? Should I know who we're talking about?
I think I can name her. I don't think she would mind. It's Lisa Lisa Lovell.
Lisa, you've recently connected maybe in a new way with this ministry. And also, why don't you tell us a little bit about where we're at, and then we'll get into what kind of your role is as well. So where are we at right now?
So we are in the kitchen of the Desired Haven Family Care Home. It's a new title, so we're all still getting used to it just a little bit. I have been just taken on the role of being an advocate recruiter. I am recruiting advocates for this home. There are also advocate recruiters for the other 2 homes that are in Arkansas, but I do just do this home. And what I am doing is just facilitating the paperwork so that we can screen and make sure that they are an appropriate candidate for that role. What that role is what we call it. It's an advocate. You come alongside of that mom. You get to know her. You support her in prayer. You just support her as a friend with appropriate boundaries, if I can say it that way. Yeah. One of the things that we do have some self-paced learning that you go through that I will say is excellent. That just teaches you just some basic ways of dealing with people who are coming through these kind of situations. And then you're asked that you walk through a Bible study that is written for you. And the mom does the Bible study, and then you do the Bible study, and then you come together and discuss that on your own schedule. Okay. I haven't been told if there's really a time frame for that, but it's a 7-week Bible study. And then beyond that, just walking alongside them. You know, so many of these ladies have either needed to leave support systems, or they don't have a support system, you know, for one reason or another. And so this is establishing you as their first support system and helping them gain that. One of the vital roles that you will play as an advocate is taking them to church and helping them find a church home. So that would preferably be at your own home, but it could be that you would just help them find a church that is an appropriate fit for them.
Okay. Wow. Ladies, thanks a bunch.
And I met her for the first time in Springdale. A group from your church actually came, and they were helping us get our home ready for some new families.
Teams, I think, yeah.
And
cool.
Just amazing people. I fell in love with them the very first day that I started visiting with them, and so Lisa came on board as our advocate recruiter, and I'm telling you, it's just been amazing being able to see how the Lord has just put so many pieces together to bring about a wholesome, you know, starting to form these support systems for our families in that area. Really cool. Another thing that we're working on, and Lisa has been able to provide an advocate for this as well. Not only are we providing, because that's our added, the advocacy program is kind of like our added coming around these families, because what would happen is they would come around, they would come to our homes, but then when they move out, a lot of our families have no support system. Okay. And so this advocacy program provides a way for someone to build a relationship with our mom, to invite them to their church, to help them put together their own support system. And then when that mom moves out, she has that relationship. She has those ties. And so not only is that happening for our moms in our homes, but also for families that are reunifying. So we currently have a family in the area that is being reunified with their children, their biological children. They will not be living in our home, but Lisa has actually been able to recruit an advocate for us to pair with that mom, who will build a relationship with that mom out in the community and help her as she learns to do all of these things, to balance all of these things as a family again.
So you're starting to share things that the local church, how they walk alongside or partner with you. What's on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is the local church to the ministry that is happening there? How would you describe that? Maybe you can.
I can't do that without, you know, thinking about FBC Brinkley and what they were to me and my girls. And, you know, even one of your members, you know, Steve and Rhonda at one point was one of my Sunday school teachers. Mr. Steve was actually, he was a huge part of my husband's walk with the Lord. They went on mission trips together, and he was a huge, and the day my husband passed away, guess who was at my house? You know, and that's what the church does. What the family, and that's all I know is through example. I can't put that into words because there's just so much that entails. But it's those instances like that that my families in our homes don't always have that. And I do believe that's what we are called to as the local church, is to just be the church, be Jesus to our people in real and tangible ways. And I will forever remember faces that encouraged me and my girls during that time, that walked alongside me. A part of our training is there's 3 parts to being an advocate. The first part is that they support through building a relationship. They support through helping put together a support system. And that's huge. That's what I had at FBC Brinkley. I had people that cared about me, and then they helped secure. That second part is where you come alongside that family, and you help them put the boundaries on certain areas of their lives that come from God's word, and secure that physical haven, you know, that physical. So in the beginning, that relationship, they're like that person, that church is like a haven for our family. And that's what my people at FBC Brinkley were to me. They were like my haven, my temporary haven. But then as you come around this family, you help them put the boundaries from God's word on their life, and that helps them build their physical haven, you know. And then the third part, and this is the part that I'm just most excited about, it's the stay part. They stay. So they support, they secure, and then they stay. So even when our families push back, even when they may stumble again, that advocate stays. They continue to love on this family. They continue to come around there. And that's what Brinkley did for me. I mean, there were times I pushed back. I'm sure there were times if you went back to my hometown and they would just be like, oh, Debbie, you know, they would probably just be like, it was a struggle. She was a handful, but they stayed, you know, they loved me through it. And that's what we want our advocates to do for our families, because, you know, we're all going to stumble. We're all going to mess up again. But to show the love of Christ, that it's unconditional and that it stays. And then that ultimately points them to their true desired haven, which is Christ himself.
What are some other support avenues that local churches can be involved in, from the high commitments to the maybe less time commitment things? Are there some levels of getting involved, the various ways it can happen?
Yes, so each one of our homes on our website, each one of our homes has an actual list of a needs list. So, you know, that can be anywhere from cleaning supplies to sheets or whatever. I mean, that's on our website. But we also have service projects, such as coming and helping get a suite ready for a family to move in, or we recently had someone come and clean out our prayer garden, those type things. Maybe doing a demonstration or a meal for our families. One of the things that we would like to see happen on down the road as this develops is having families that would be willing, if we had, say, a mom that's sick, having a family from a church maybe bring her a meal to the home, so that mom doesn't have to cook supper when she's sick, or freezer meals, things like that. So there are lots of different opportunities.
We use the phrase God stories a lot, because God is at work. Sometimes, a lot of times when we're not seeing it or paying attention, he's there. But how would you describe maybe either getting to look back on some things that have happened around here, any kind of a God stories that you've seen happening that you can share with us?
Yes, well, and you know, even there, you know, in your area, this kind of piggybacks onto what you said earlier about even having your church members that have recommended people to come to our ministry. I just wanted to thank you for that as well, and just being able to point people to us as a resource. Well, I was just going to see if I could share this
Please do.
letter
Oh,
I have from this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Please do.
Okay.
Please do.
By all means.
So this is in her words. These are her. This is actually her words. So I'm just gonna read it to you guys. First, I would like to take the time to thank the family care home. When I came to you, I was in a dark place. I did not know where to turn. I remember being in the bedroom, calling random numbers in the phone book, just looking for help. Eventually, after calling many numbers, I found your number. I met with them, talking about the family care home staff, the next day, not knowing what to think or do, or even if I would be capable of all that was to come. After talking with these two ladies, they told me that they were willing to help me as much as they could, and with love, boy, did they prove it. I knew leaving my hometown with so many mixed emotions was going to be hard, but I needed to step out on faith. And that day I did, and it was the best decision so far. I am able to continue school. I applied for a job, and for the first time in my life, I entered the work field. After working only 2 weeks, I was promoted to an administrative assistant position, which will help me gain the skills I need to be successful in my career field. I am currently on the dean's list in college and will have my bachelor's degree in business administration in approximately 1 year. I'm learning to be confident in my choices, not only as a parent, but as a friend, sister, daughter, and most of all, a Christian. I appreciate these ladies so much. I love them more than they might know. They have helped this old girl fix her broken wings and bring her family together and close to God.
Wow, that's good stuff.
Wow.
Debi Walker, thank you so much for coming and kind of enriching some things for us, really blessing us with your stories and with your own story today. It's been a blessing to all of you guys watching this one today as well.